Okay, what's going on, everybody? We're here, we're live. I want to thank you all for joining me and Rob from Blacklight Revelations II today. And oh, you cleared up, Rob. You know, you all blurry before. I can see you now. You know,
That's what's up. That's what's up. Thanks for having me, Tony.
For sure. I'm glad to have you. Now, if this is your first time tuning into this channel, don't watch this video, right? And the reason that I say that is this. Today we're doing what I call open chat. During the open chat, I like to pay attention to the comment section and read the comments and answer them. And this is more of just a light-hearted show where I'm a little bit more relaxed and just, you know, casual, so to say. So if you want a proper representation of how my videos normally go, what I talk about and how I articulate myself, make sure you go to the homepage of this YouTube channel and start there. Start with the very first recommended video that you see there. But I just want to say that first and foremost, don't watch this video.
That's a great way to start the live stream. That's great.
Yeah. It's a great way to start the live stream is don't watch the video.
Right.
So I see people are coming in and coming through. JB, what's going on? Kudos Shakur, what's going on? A lot of Nia X, everybody. I see them all in here. I want to show you guys some real quick, right? And we're gonna talk about this too. I'm gonna play some of this, but you guys need to watch. If you want a better understanding of who Robb is and what he's about, you feel what I'm saying? You need to watch one of his latest videos that he put up. And let me share this on the screen with you real quick. Let me see, share screen. Because this video is really good. And anytime I'm watching a video, I see Sherrod Martin in the house. I appreciate you, Sherrod, and shout out to Vincent Harper as well. Sherrod been holding it down for like 2 years, man. You know, I appreciate Sherrod a lot. Let me, where are we at? Okay. You guys need to watch this video right here. Okay. See Robb cheesing with the big smile on his face. This video right here, anti-Black diversionary social justice. The right and left are on code, but off target. Don't buy it. I'm just gonna say this much. The video was on point. It was on point. It was on point. It's not, I'm not trying to pretend like I'm the smartest guy or I'm like super woke or whatever, but you know, it's not too often when I'm listening to other folks articulate or explain anything, right? And then as I'm listening to them, I get kind of a new revelation. You know what I mean? It's not too often. So anyways, go ahead, Robb, and let the folks know a little bit about you before we get into this discussion.
Yeah, I'm Robb. I got 2 YouTube channels, Blacklight Revelations 1 and Blacklight Revelations 2, and I'm a big fan of Tony. You know what I'm saying? I think he does a great job with his videos. Honestly, one of my favorite YouTubers. But I like what he does, and I like the approach that he comes with because he gives a lot of solution-based approaches. And I do somewhat, you know, similar content to what Tony does, but I do a couple other different things with my content. But you have to go to my channel and check it out. It may be for you, may not be for you. But the thing that one of the things that Tony and I definitely do agree with is that people need to be able to speak in a way that's diplomatic towards each other and kind of try to find more ways to unify it and more ways to, you know, go separate, because we can't operate like that. We don't have the luxury of dealing with that. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, let's get into this discussion, right? And what I wanted to talk about, right, is where we're going by 2030. If so far since the beginning of this year, which hasn't been too long because we're only in February, some of you may have noticed already that I keep harping on Black America being done by 2030, and I want to kind of explain why I keep saying that. And I'm going to break it up in a couple parts, right? I'm going to break it up concerning my position on that concerning artificial intelligence and automation. We're going to get into immigration and the policies that Joe Biden has passed. And then we're also going to get into, you know, the power of voting locally and how we're getting ready to lose that as well. So there's a lot of different, it varies, right? It's not just one reason why I say that, but one of the reasons that I do say that is this, right? And let me pull up another screen for you, because me saying that Black America is done by 2030, this isn't something that's that I'm saying because it's catchy or it's provocative. Ooh, because Joe Biden won, we're about to be finished. No, I've been saying this for quite some time now. Let me pull this up for you very quickly so you can see how long I've been talking about this. And let me see, it should be in front of you right now. And let me make that a little bit bigger. These set of videos right here is titled Brother, Please Hear Me Out. And this video series that I have here, there are 18 of them. I specifically focus on artificial intelligence, automation, and the impact that it's going to have on the Black community, how we need to step up and make sure that we're getting the necessary education needed, right, in order for us to be able to participate in the field of tech. The field of tech is wide open right now. There's a lot of opportunities in it, and it's a lot more open, and the ceiling is a lot more higher than people believe. And there's a lot of free tools out there for us to utilize in order to get our tech skills up to par so that we don't get left behind. And I've been talking about this since October of 2019. This is the very first episode that you see right here. Black Americans don't waste time. And if you go up even further, starting around December of 2019 is when I started declaring Black Americans will be washed by 2030. And when I say that, I give you all the resources, the stats, and the articles that I'm pulling that from. I'm not just talking out of the side of my you-know-what, right? I'm saying this for a reason. So you need to watch, if you haven't already, episode 7, Black Americans will be washed by 2030, as well as episode 10, Black Americans must skill up by 2023. I'm sorry, somebody keeps trying to call me. I need to put this on silent. But we need to watch this stuff, man. You need to watch that and pay attention because, like I said, I'm not making this stuff up, right? That tech door is wide open, open greenfield pastures, right? And if we allow that door to shut, we're completely finished. We're going to be the Walking Dead out here. This is outside of what we like to talk about concerning reparations and the Black agenda. This is what we can do for ourselves right now. You feel where I'm coming from? And that's what I'm about promoting when it comes to that YouTube channel. When it comes to that, not that YouTube channel, but when it comes to that, those series of videos. So, Rob, you want to go in on that a little bit, whether you want to talk about automation or just give us your take on that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And you're not the first person that has said that as far as Black America being done by a certain time period. I think your estimates are a little bit more liberal than what Dr. Claude Anderson had said, because originally I think he said like 2015 or something like that. So, this is actually buying us some extra time. And I agree with you 100% as far as the artificial intelligence being competitive and also other information technology career fields. And another thing that people can kind of get involved with is cryptocurrency. I don't know how you feel about cryptocurrency, but I've been paying attention to Bitcoin since 2016. And I thought that even in 2016, it might have been too late at that point, because when I first started watching it, the price was maybe about, I want to say like $8,000 per one coin. And if you've been following Bitcoin, currently, I believe it's close to between 40 and 50,000 per coin. So, future investment markets and things like that. Because the thing is that, right now, what the government is holding in front of people is a study for reparations. It's not even a conversation about reparations. It's a study. So to wait for something like that and think that that's going to actually occur, in my opinion, is not the wisest thing. In psychology, they talk about an internal locus of control, and having an internal locus of control is you believing that you can control elements. And when you have control over those elements, you can control the environment. In my opinion, there should always be a contingency plan. And in that contingency plan should be you preparing yourself for the coming workforce pattern changes and the financial markets, which would be more of a technology-based workforce and a cryptocurrency-based financial environment.
Couldn't have said it better. You actually said it better than me. That's why I'm glad I have you on.
Just in case you didn't know, my cryptocurrency address, Tony, is in my about
page. Sure, man. And but everything that he's saying is real, though. if we're not preparing to get ourselves, ready for the future job market that's to come, we're toast. And in those two videos that I specifically mentioned, right, where I said Black Americans will be washed by 2030 and Black Americans must skill up by 2023. In those two videos, or those two episodes of Brother Please Hear Me Out, I give you actual statistics of what actual research shows will happen to particularly Black men, by these time periods. Black men concerning unemployment, and finances, we're already at the bottom of the bottom. By those time periods, we're going to completely fall off a cliff. All right, it's just, and I say this over and over again in those set of videos, we're going to be the Walking Dead out here. We're going to be the Walking Dead, and like I said, there's data that backs all of this stuff up. It's not just me saying this stuff. I verify all this stuff through the articles and the data that I give you. Now, as a slight shift, right? What I also want to talk about concerning why I always say that we're going to be finished by 2030 is now I want to shift to immigration, because we all know that Joe Biden recently signed what everybody likes to say sweeping immigration legislation via executive order. And in his sweeping legislation for immigration, there is a 8-year path to citizenship within it, right? So by 2028, potentially all 11 million, and in my personal belief, there's more than 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. I don't have facts to back that up. That's just what I personally believe. But if we're just going off of what we know, all 11 million potentially, right, will now be on the path to citizenship. And what I mean by that is once 2028 hits, every year after that, 2029, 2020, 2030, 2031, the number of those who are becoming citizens is going to jump by leaps and bounds every year, right? As that's happening, now your voting power is decreasing every year. It's dropping and dropping and dropping, right? And the thing is with that, and here's two things concerning that, right? I hear a lot of people that say, oh, this is going to backfire on the Democrats because immigrants, they tend to vote Republican, they tend to vote conservative. For me, that's wishful thinking, in my opinion. It's wishful thinking because overall, when it comes to the men and women of the dominant society, their voting patterns aren't going to change. It's not going to really go up or go down. Asians, it's not really going to change. It won't go up or go down. It'll just be the same. For Black women, it's not going to change. There are no signs or patterns that shows Black women are going to stop voting Democrat at the mass numbers that they do, right? And when I say stop voting Democrat, it's not because I'm a Republican. I'm about, like Robb, I'm about legislation and policies. If these policies aren't relevant to me, I'm going with the person who has the policies that are relevant, right? And when it comes to the Democratic Party, they just don't give us anything for our votes. So not to get too sidetracked, Black women are going to keep voting Democrat. That's the point that I'm making. Now we come to Hispanics, and then we come to Black men, right? On both sides, Democrats and Republicans, the Hispanic vote is going to go up. When it comes to people like myself who say your vote is going to be replaced, all the Democrats need is for that Hispanic side to go up on the Democratic side. They just need to replace the Black vote that's dipping. That's it. They don't have to replace the entire Black vote. They don't have to replace all Asian votes. It's only one demographic within the Democratic Party that trends down every year and slightly goes up every year on the Republican side, and that's Black men. So as long as they can replace the Black men with those votes that they're going to be getting from the Hispanic population that's going to keep rising, that's all they need. So as far as you now swaying and tipping the scales on the national level when you're voting for the president of the United States, it's over with already. That's done by that time. Now, when you come to locally, right, what's going on locally, you have a lot of cities, and I've talked about this before, right? I'll take South Carolina, for instance. If I remember correctly, the demographics in South Carolina, it's pretty much a state that's black and white. That's it by the data. The number of Asians and Hispanics that are there are minuscule. It's like almost nothing. Now, when you talk to people that actually live in South Carolina and in the major cities, they'll tell you, no, they're here. You know, Hispanics are here. You know, Asians are here. Whoever, immigrants are here. They're just undocumented. But if you're going about your day-to-day life, you'll see them. They're just not reflected on the data. You get what I'm saying? Because they're undocumented. Now, when it comes to voting locally and getting what you need locally to restore your communities, I've been preaching this for a little bit now. That's the move over what you got to do nationally, right? Because if you're waiting for the federal government to go through Congress and then go through the Senate, look, we can't even get a stimulus bill passed, all right? So if you're really expecting them to do something as far as legislation is concerned for the Black community, we're going to be waiting a long time. It's going to be a long fight, and it's just going to be a pain in the you know what. I'm not saying don't do it, but I've seen bills pass for certain communities, the Black communities in different cities, like pass relatively quick in comparison to what's happening nationally. But once again, after 2028, when these immigrant populations and are starting to get citizenship, you're not going to see in states like South Carolina and other cities where Black Americans have a large voting block. It's going to disappear now. And you're not going to have the stronghold over the votes in your counties and in your cities and in your wards the way that you do now. So you have to act now within this next decade to really get things done on a local level if you're really trying to restore your communities. And this comes to the point also, and I'm gonna let Rob have the floor. You know, when we're talking about artificial intelligence and automation and coding and things of that nature, when I talk about that in my videos, brother, please hear me out. Recently, some of the backlash that I'll get is, oh, well, you know, brother, you know, in our communities, we don't have, the laptops and the tech. We just don't have access to resources, right? I don't have to over articulate it. We don't have access to resources like that, right? Okay, cool, right? That's where your local government comes in, man. That's where you're petitioning, you know, your governors, your mayors, and all that to say, hey, you need to get our schools up to par with the trending direction that this country is going in as it pertains to the future job market for our children. The same way like how back in 1996, when I was in 6th grade, we used to have computer class. You feel what I'm saying? We had computer class back then. There needs to be coding classes now. But that's not coming down. This is my opinion. That it's not coming down. It's not happening on a federal level. They're not about to do all that, you know, and it's not going to happen in a time period that you want it to. But when you're doing your thing locally, when you're voting locally and you're putting pressure on your mayors, your governors and your aldermen and all that, you can get these things to come around a lot quicker. But with all that being said, also, that's the time period is for that is coming to an end concerning how strong your voting block is in your city, state, ward, or county. So you have to act now within this decade to secure certain resources for your community. Anyways, go ahead and take it away, Rob. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. 100%. And honestly, the thing is that I think that when it comes to critiques and criticism, we're a little bit too passive on ourselves. I was reading the comment section. I don't know if you saw I got some big eyes. I don't know if you saw my eyes darting over looking at the comment section, you know what I'm saying? But I was reading some of the comments and somebody put in, I think it was CW, I'm not sure, but he put in there that we're not concerned about the issues enough that affect us. And I totally agree with that. That's one of my major criticisms, you know, is that it's really hard to get people to pay attention to these things because these things are so important. You know what I'm saying? You ever heard of the 80-20 principle? It's like, 20% of people only pay attention to things that are, 80% important to what's going on in your life. It's called the Puerto principle. They use it in math, business, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And the thing is just how do you get people to understand how important these issues are to pay attention to them? Because see, the thing is that you and I can have these kind of conversations, and the people who come to our channels, they care about this kind of stuff and they pay attention. But the average person who's not Black basically has an average understanding of this kind of stuff. In my opinion, and from my observation, a lot of us don't have the average understanding of how to get things done.
No, I agree with that, you know, and this is something that a lot of people got mad at me about, right? I want to say two brother please hear me outs ago. I'll say it like that. Two brother please hear me outs ago. People got upset at me. Overall, the video was well received, right? Overall, but you as creators, the negative always stands out more than the positive. I'll have like 300 comments that are like, yeah, brother, I feel what you're saying. All right. Or maybe I respectfully disagree, but I get you overall. But it's the ones that go, you stupid, that
right,
stand out. But what people got mad at me about, some people did, is that me having the audacity to say that, I mean, word this properly. I'm not telling you to take your focus off of reparations and a Black agenda and politics and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. You should be focused on these things, listening to these things, understanding them, and trying to get whatever you can out of that process. You should be. But let's also make sure that we're diverting some of our focus onto these other things like artificial intelligence and automation and how that's going to affect us. What happens is, and you see how I'm treading lightly and making sure that I don't make anybody upset, is because we're so focused on this one particular goal, which there's nothing wrong with, but you start to miss the mark on other goals and other opportunities that are just passing you by.
That's called, you know, putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're putting all your eggs in one basket, man. And it was just interesting to me that when I made that statement, people were like, "Oh, you don't believe reparations anymore? You don't think it's not gonna happen?" And you don't, you know what I mean? Like the backlash that I got was like wild, you know, from the people that were like, "Oh, you know, we need this, we need reparations," and all this negative back. It was just it was crazy. I don't need to over explain it, but like you were saying, that matters, man.
That matters.
That you need to be focused on artificial intelligence and automation and what's happening within the fourth industrial revolution that's currently taking place.
Right.
And if I explain that to you and I say, hey, you know, these politics are important, but you need to also focus on this too. That's what you should be doing. Not because I'm God and I know everything, just because it makes logical sense. But so many of us get caught up in, I guess you could say, the bubble that we're in, whatever. And we don't want to hear anything outside of it. So go ahead and speak on that.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And the thing is that, in my opinion, you know, that you saying that is not offensive. That's something that people need to hear, because the thing is that there's a difference between what we want to hear versus reality. And what you were talking about is reality. And unfortunately, that reality was not what a lot of people, you know, may want to hear, but it's reality. You know what I'm saying? I want to hear that when I go to Circle K, I could possibly win the lottery. When I go to Circle K, more than likely what will end up happening is I'll leave with a pack of Black & Milds. That's about it. You know what I'm saying? So we need to speak in terms of reality. And another term of reality is, I don't know if anybody is familiar with a man named Daniel. I think his name is Daniel Prude. Daniel Prude. He was killed by the police. They asphyxiated him. They put a spit mask over his head, and he was laying butt naked in the streets of Rochester, New York. And, you know, they cited excited delirium as the diagnosis. Now, this excitable delirium has been used as a license to kill for a very long time. And the thing that's crazy is that we do so much marching and so much protesting. I guarantee you there's not a lot of people that know what excitable delirium is. The best thing that people can do is exactly what you're saying, Tony. And see, some of the things that you're saying as far as, you know, take control of your future, get into coding, get into artificial intelligence. That message translates into everything else. Understand politics, know about the things that we have on the horizon. if people listen to Dr. Claude Anderson, he gave reasons of why immigration policy is changing. And one of those reasons is along with a lot of the eugenics and Planned Parenthood and things like that. And that's to suppress the population to being under 13%, so that other populations can outgrow us, so that we can continue to not have voting power. So what we need to do is take control of the elements and things that we can take control of, which is exactly what Tony was saying at the local level. If we live in concentrated areas, we can easily take over local votes. You have to do things in pockets. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. You have to do it in pockets, And another thing too, concerning doing things in pockets and taking care of business locally concerning our actual needs for our community, one of the things that, needs a high amount of focus on is what I made a video about on TD News Network. If you're not subscribed to TD News Network, make sure you subscribe to TD News Network on YouTube. And what I spoke on was the fact that, and I'm sure you remember, Rob, because I saw you commented, the fact that our Black boys can't read. We can't read. And the data, I gave it to you in the video. Like I said, I never get up here and just talk just to be talking, I show you where I get my information from, and we're not reading. Our Black boys can't read. They're going through school and just being either turn out completely illiterate or functionally illiterate, right? With that being said, once again, this is where in pockets, local government, local elections, where you can handle business and correct these things, man, by demanding these people on a local level to fix these schools in a way that will put a heavy I'm losing my words, not a heavy understanding, but you know what I mean. That'll put that
emphasis.
Huh? Emphasis. Yeah, heavy emphasis on literacy within the school and mathematics and just STEM in general.
Yep.
So many of us, and I see it all the time, and I've been seeing it my whole life. I don't know what it is. I guess I do get it, but we're very docile, when it comes to truly speaking up for like what actually matters. Once again, this doesn't mean that reparations and all that stuff doesn't matter, but I will say this much. If I had to place something over reparations and the Black agenda and all that, it's the literacy issue that I talked about that's happening with Black boys. Because if these boys can't read, we have a whole generation of Black boys that are about to fall off a damn cliff. If they can't read, they can't even begin to do anything for themselves. What you gonna do? If
you're gonna do exactly like Dr. Claude Anderson said, sweat production.
Yeah, that's it. And if that, right. Like when we're talking about the fact that artificial intelligence and automation is ripping out all of these low-class jobs, for lack of better words. They don't need you to be at the checkout line at Walmart. They don't need you flipping burgers no more. They don't need you filling up coffee and they don't need you for none of that stuff anymore. When those jobs are eliminated, which they are being eliminated right now as we speak, and they're not coming back and they're being eliminated fast. If our boys can't read, like I said, how are they going to learn how to code? How are they going to learn these intricate, technical, highly advanced skills, that you can learn at a very young age? How are you going to learn if you can't read? You know what I mean? Right. Like that's for me personally, that the literacy issue is a bigger issue, is the biggest issue to me. Because Absolutely. Like I said, you can't even begin to do anything for yourself. You can't do nothing at that point. You're done.
Right. And another thing that you actually just made me think about this. What people need to actually look up some of those articles in Forbes and some of those articles on Wired. But what you will see about artificial intelligence, especially with Google and especially with Facebook, is that there's actually inherent racial biases being written into AI software. They have to, you know what I mean? So for one, if you don't know how to read, you're done. And for two, if we're not putting our own influence into AI and artificial intelligence, it's the same thing as what's going on with the education system. We're letting other people write our history. If we don't have a high enough representation in AI, we don't have people in there who can actually represent us properly. So we're being represented by other people. We have Asians, whites, other people who are writing software about us that could not possibly be correct. You know what I mean? That is really bad. That is setting up for a very bad situation.
It is, and I'm glad you said that, because people don't have any idea like how true what you said is, right? Excuse me. And I want to shout out my boy Ryan Glenn. He's a writer for tdnewsnetwork.com. He wrote up an article about that, and I'm gonna pull that up for you guys right now just so you can see it. I'm not gonna read it, but I'll drop the link in the live comment section also. Give me just a second while I pull this up, because Robb was spitting facts just now concerning artificial intelligence. Let me pull this up for you. Okay. Let me make this bigger.
There it is. There it is.
I'll make this bigger, and then I'm gonna actually click on the link so you can see it yourself. Man, shout out to Ryan Glenn, man, for writing this article up. I mean, where's this tab? Okay, here it goes. Wait for it. It's a little bit slow. Racial Bias in Artificial Intelligence by the homie Ryan Glenn, right? Everything that Robb just said, he broke all of this down. Even the artificial intelligence and automation that's being built right now is racist, which is insane. Yeah. That's insane. It's insane. But why is it racist? Because they're programming these robots off of their own bias. The non-blacks that are involved in artificial intelligence and automation, off of their own biases, they're programming these artificial intelligence and automation, and they're programming them. Excuse me, they're programming them unbeknownst. I don't. Maybe I'm a little naive. I don't necessarily believe all of it's on purpose, but because they have their own biases. Yeah, because they have their own biases on Black Americans. You feel me? They're programming these guys to be racist.
Imagine if we programmed artificial intelligence on white people, how inaccurate it would be. And you may not even be racist against white people. It's just that you're not white, so you're not going to program it properly. It's the same thing with Asians or anybody. It's a point of, for one, you do have those people out there that are racist, so you can never discount that. But it's always going to be a point of view issue. You know what I mean? I mean, you just, even if I drew a picture, me and Tony, we have clear differences about each other. If I draw a picture of a person, the person is probably going to be more in my image because it's just me. So imagine that on when you're a completely different race or culture from somebody. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it is.
Exactly. And I was reading the comments just now. I'm not sure within what context Nia X was saying this. I'm assuming Nia X is talking to somebody else about some other thing, but she put, Nia X put, we don't have a seat at the table. And here's the thing, right? I'm just going to project what I think you might mean, even though Nia X probably wasn't even responding to us. But when it comes to having a seat at the table, at this point, you feel me? We got to make our own. We got to make our own seat. We got to make our own. And all of this stuff is doable once you actually learn the technology. And it's not hard to do. It just takes discipline and consistency and doing whatever it is that you need to do to learn this stuff. Because once again, it can go back to, you know, oh, we don't have the resources in our community and we're poor and yada, yada, yada. And okay, I hear you on that. And then I tell you about local politics and we got to demand coding classes in our schools. Okay, cool. I hear all that. But then I see some people in the comment section that say, oh, well, politics isn't the way. Politics is never going to work for us. Well, then at that point, you got to do what you got to do. If that means all of us don't have laptops that are functioning properly. And all of us don't have Wi-Fi and the internet and all that kind of stuff. Got it. But guess what? We all got one of these. We all got this phone. You're not going to tell me, you're not going to show me no statistics that say we don't have this phone. And you can learn how to code from off your phone. So if that means that you got to go stand next to a damn Starbucks, order a cup of coffee, and you can't go sit inside, but you sitting on the outside of Starbucks for 30 minutes, at least maybe 4 days a week for 30 minutes, learning how to code from off your phone, that's what you got to do. Nobody's saying that it's right. Nobody's saying that it's fair. It all sucks. But it is what it is. You know?
It's survival at this point.
It's survival.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's survival at this point. You feel me? So that if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. And if we're not doing any of these things, right? If we're not taking advantage of this moment, you know, concerning how wide open the field of tech is, if we're not taking advantage of the fact that we, as a people, as Black people in certain cities, states, and wards, we have the numbers to be able to influence our cities and counties locally so that we can get what we need at a faster pace locally. If we're not taking advantage of this stuff and we're not taking it seriously, 2030 is a wrap. It's a wrap. It's a wrap for us. And I see a lot of people in the conversation, and I want to move over to reparations now, right? I see a lot of people in the comment section right now going back and forth on reparations, you know, and I want to say this, right? This is probably gonna make some people mad, but I'm gonna say it anyways. Okay. In my opinion, right, and this is coming back to 2030 as well, 2030. The only thing, right, that's really keeping the reparations argument alive, in my opinion, this is how I feel, is the fact that despite the fact that obviously all slaves, right, are dead, right, and slave masters are dead, we still have direct connections of the men and women who survived Jim Crow, right? Mm-hmm. They're still here to tell their stories and to give interviews and all that kind of stuff. Because when you're talking about reparations for the descendants of American slavery, right? It's not just slavery. It comes. They're talking about Jim Crow as well, right? It's not just that. It's about Jim Crow also. Understand and really let this sit on your mind for a minute. Really, really think about this, right? Because I was looking this up. I think Jesse Jackson, if I remember correctly, was like 77 years old, right? Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that man is 87 years old. Dick Gregory dead. You understand what I'm saying? Harry Belafonte is like, these are like the key figures that we like to speak about, right? Harry Belafonte, he's still alive. He's like 80 something years old. My point is, they're not going to be here by 2030, man.
Dr. Claude Anderson is getting up there in age. He's older.
Dr. Claude Anderson is old. I don't know how old he is, but he's somewhere in his 70s, if not his 80s.
I think when he was on the Breakfast Club, in that interview on the Breakfast Club, I think he said he was in his 80s. Don't quote me, but I think that's what he said.
You feel what I'm saying? Like in by this decade, they will all by 2030, they will all be gone, right? And I'm using them as an example, right, for us to look at the bigger picture concerning the entire Black population, right? All of your direct connections to Jim Crow and the survivors of Jim Crow by 2030 will be gone. You might have those anomalies where they're like 103 or something like that, but realistically, they're out of here. And now you really have to take this into consideration and process this. We're moving to a state after 2030 where you have no direct connections to slavery, obviously. You no longer have any direct connections to Jim Crow.
And they're trying to change the history books. There's that.
Yeah. So you don't have those direct connections are gone. The white population is skydiving downwards. They're getting fewer and fewer. And people of color, non-Black, their population is going up. So past 2030, I'm not saying whether or not this is right or wrong, but then you have to ask yourself, what are we talking about? Because you can always make an argument for it the same way you can make an argument for anything. But the more time that passes by, the less and less that argument is valid. It doesn't matter about all your data and statistics. Like, you can have that, but in the eyes of people, in the eyes of man, regardless of your statistics and data, they're going to look at you and be like, bro, everybody gone. White people, there's no white people in the country anymore. There will be, but you know what I mean? Because like by 2064, white people will make up 45% of the population, right? Versus like being the majority. So when everybody's dead and gone, all your connections are gone. White folks their numbers are dwindling. They're not even in the country like that anymore. And it's just a bunch of Black, Hispanics, and Asians. Everybody's looking at you like, what? Man, get out of here. You feel what I'm saying? And that's why, once again, I know I'm being super long-winded. That's why, once again, if this is happening, if we're doing it, it's now. It's this decade, in my opinion. It's not after 2030. Ooh, y'all gonna be mad. After 2030, that conversation is dead.
Yeah, I agree.
After conversation, at 2030, that conversation is dead.
Honestly, and I don't want to upset your audience, Tony, but honestly, I do believe that we are most definitely owed. You know what I mean? But we have to again talk in terms of reality. I think there was a calculation out there that said I don't know the amount of reparations owed would be somewhere in the 200 trillions. I think something like that. That's almost equivalent to the entire national debt, which will make sense. I mean, it's a debt owed for labor that built the entire wealth of the country. Now, you have to think in terms of reality. China they own so much of the United States. What is going to get paid back first, if anything is ever paid? Because the United States is never even going to pay off its national debt, let alone what is the realistic chances of them even trying to make an attempt to do that, despite the fact of that they should do it, that it's owed. Look at how much of a percentage of our financial market China owns. Look at our national debt. If you haven't looked at the debt clock, you can go and look at the United States debt clock, and then look at the reparations calculations. And what do you think that they'll try to pay for first? That's why they have a study as a blockade in front of the actual reparations bill to be on the table. You know what I'm saying? It's a stalling tactic.
That's all it is, because we all know that there doesn't need to be we all know that we don't need a study to determine whether or not Black Americans should get reparations and all this kind of stuff. We know and understand this already, right? That's all BS. What's happening now, like you said, is that it's a stalling tactic, right? That's all it is. They're stalling us out and they're waiting us out because of everything that I just said past 2030.
Yep.
That's why they're stalling it out. I recorded a video about the Joe Biden's press secretary, right? I haven't put it out yet because I've been redoing it. But when she was talking about the reparation study, the brother was calling, shout out to whoever that brother was, because he wasn't going for the benign neglect BS that she was spitting at him. But I'll make it quick. I'll make it short. She kept diverting back to Joe Biden supports the study. Joe Biden supports the study. Oh, and he supports the study. And the brother was like, listen, I'm not talking about the study. I'm talking about the bill. But okay, check this out. He was, man, salute to him. He was like, listen, since he supports the study so much and Joe Biden just got done signing all these executive orders, how about he just signs an executive order to put together a commission? Let's just get it done. And what did she do? Skated benign neglect right around that. Oh, we already signed, legislation that deals with equity in the United States and all that benign neglect BS that has nothing to do with reparations. Me and Rob were talking before the show started. He was asking me how I feel about HR 40, right? And what's crazy is that, like I was telling Rob, for as broken as HR 40 is, and for as it needs to be fixed, right? And we all seen the hashtag, and we know fix HR 40. For as broken as HR 40 is, they don't even want to pass a broken bill concerning reparations. Let that sit on your mind. They don't even want to pass a broken, flawed study on reparations, because in their minds, anything that has to do with that equates to the elevation of Black Americans. And that's what I was telling Rob. That's even if a flawed study is passed, right? A flawed study can be passed and we get a flawed version of reparations. Now, this is just my opinion, okay? Even if we get a flawed version of reparations that doesn't have cash payments attached to it, right? Any hyper focus on one particular group whether you're hyper focusing on them for the purposes of education, employment, whatever, is going to elevate that group. It might not happen the way that you want it to happen, because as the person's owed, right? You want all that you're owed, right? And as you should, and as you're entitled to. But we all know within politics, there's always compromise. So my point is, and I want to wrap this up so I don't go too far off I always feel like I'm, about to go off on a tangent, is that they don't even want to pass a flawed bill, because even a flawed bill and the proposals that will come forth after the flawed bill would still result in somewhat of a collective uplift that they don't want to happen at all, even with it being flawed. Okay. So like Rob was saying, at the whole thing about we got to study. That's just a stalling tactic to get to 2030 so we can just throw this out the window and be done with it. Because like I said, after 2030, I don't make any apologies for saying this, man. Like, if it rubs you the wrong way, I guess it just rubs you the wrong way. I'm not trying to, but by 2030, the conversations that we're having now and the conversations we're having now, the things that we're proposing that we need to do and push forward now, it's not gonna, that conversation is dead. Yeah. 2030, that conversation is dead. A decade from now, that conversation is dead, because folks are going to look at you, right? Like how we were talking about with automation and artificial intelligence. And you got young brothers that understand and know what time it is now. There's this brother named Young Grunt. I believe he's somewhere in his 20s. He watches my videos. He knows what time it is concerning, Black agenda, reparations, how crooked the Democratic Party is, and how we always get thrown under the bus, Black folks, and blah, 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 blah. He understands all that, white supremacy, all that. But even him as a young brother in his 20s, I see on his YouTube channel that he got started, he's doing a live stream, and even him, young brother, 20, maybe 20 something years old, is giving it up, saying, man, I don't want to hear no excuses from us when it comes to this artificial intelligence and automation and us getting our tech skills up, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I guess I can say this because it wasn't too personal. Me and him had dialogue. Me and him had dialogue in the DMs, and he was just asking me some questions about tech, and whatever. And I believe he had just got into a tech course via like a community college or something like that. Right. But I say all that to say that even for young brothers like him, they understand my position, where I'm coming from, why I go so hard for reparations, why I go so hard for a Black agenda, because we need these things. But at the same time, he's also of the mindset that if that don't happen, and come 2030, you still in the same spot you was in 2020. In his mind, he like, don't talk to me about nothing, because there were things that you could have done that you chose not to do. Now, understand, I get that's not the case for everybody. Please, I know the data, I know the statistics. Y'all know that I know based off the videos that I do. But there are enough of us, and he has this understanding as well. There are enough of us, man, that if we're putting that real effort forward, right, and we're focusing on the things that are truly important, we're focusing on what did you call it, Rob? The contingency plan, the plan B, putting focus on getting our tech skills up, putting focus on putting pressure on local officials to have literacy initiatives in our school to make sure that our boys can read. You understand what I'm saying? Putting pressure on these folks locally to put coding courses in our classes. You understand what I'm saying? Go ahead. You feel you want to? I see you want to jump in.
Yeah, I was just actually going to say it's real hard to learn how to code if you don't know how to read. And we're talking about the young kids that don't know how to read. You know what I mean? And I was looking at some of Nia's comments. She said, even if 5 or 6 of you learn to code, let me scroll back up. Mm-hmm. Asians, Indians, white people got it. Y'all waited too long, but whatever. And she could definitely have a point with that. I mean, there's legitimate criticisms there, but there's other things also that people can do as well. I mean, we're in a situation where there's a lot of medical help that's needed. You know what I mean? That's important. Clearly, there's going to be a lot of biochemical engineering and pharmaceutical tech type things that are going to be needed. And then there's going to be, still, even if you don't get all the way into artificial intelligence, you know what I mean? Like there's software, practical software that can be written that will always be applicable to the way that the world is. They're going to be upgrading the infrastructure. Somebody way back in the comments had mentioned something about Agenda 2030, and there's going to be more software as far as intelligent cities and different things like that for transportation and things like that. There's going to always be a market for something. I think that one of the problems is people say, well, what is our agenda? What is our agenda? There's nothing stopping everybody on an individual level from creating their own agenda for being better. When I was younger, one of the things that my mom did was she constantly made me do supplementary schoolwork. She used to get these books from the grocery market, and she used to make me do math problems and flashcards. And by the time I was in kindergarten, I knew subtraction and addition and division, multiplication, and as parents, those are things that we can do as kids, because see, one thing that people don't understand is that as a child, your brain learns a lot more. You have a completely different neurosynaptic connection and the way that you learn and process information as a child. So if you front load your child with information, with memorization and mathematics and different things like that, even starting with the coding or a second language or something like that, if you start that while they're young, it'll be nothing for them to do it while they're older, because see, I'm telling you what they're going to do. The literacy rate is very low, like what Tony is saying. And these people already use these arguments about low IQ and this, that, and the other and blah, blah, blah. And they're going to use this to manufacture even more talking points and make it where they just say, well, look, you guys can't even read. The way to combat that is to take control of it in your own household, and at a young age, start drilling in the importance of information to your children, to your family at home. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, people talk about single moms and different things like that, but it doesn't matter who you are. Just make sure that you get that information and get the importance of that instilled into your children at a young age, so they have that hunger for information, and it just develops into more and more and more until they're able to do something functional when they complete their education. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Give me a second. And
sorry, but I got off on a rant.
Oh, no, you're good. I was just typing something in the comment section, but you was going in as you should, because I'll put it to you like this, and I'll add this much as well, right? Pertaining, because I have a son, he's 7 years old, right? And I'm learning how to be a better father every day, trying to just figuring it out, right? With that being said, when it comes to our kids, and it's something that we can learn from I want to say Asian culture as well, right? And their kids are told what they're going to do, right? In American culture, in Eastern culture, I should say, in Eastern culture, just from what I've analyzed, they don't sit up there and my son's a free thinker, and whatever he wants to do when he gets older, if he wants to, be a musician or an artist, or if he wants to be a scientist or a firefighter, I just going to guide him along on what he wants to do. In Eastern culture, you're learning how to code. That's it. Right. There's nothing to talk about. That's it. Right. You're going to school to be a doctor. You're going to school for this. Now, once again, I understand because of our wealth position point. When it comes to college and all that stuff, for many of us, it's really difficult, to say the very least. But when it comes back to coding and learning tech skills, that's stuff that you can do at the house for little to no money, if not free, depending on what you're trying to get into. So I say all that to say, when it comes to your kids, you're doing this, you're coding, and that's it. I think you text me about that, Rob, about what your kids like. Coding is mandatory. I don't care whether or not you like it or not. I remember my son told me my son said something to the fact like, I don't really like coding anymore. I don't really want to do it. And it's like, that's cool. You're doing it though. You know what I mean?
Right. You like playing video games, you're gonna learn how to make one.
Yeah, you're gonna learn how to make one. Because what happens with that is this, right? What happens with that is this. And I'll give you a story. Like a month or so ago, I was getting my hair cut, right? And my barber was cutting me up, and he was telling me a story while he was lining me up about how his mom used to make him draw, right? He had to draw. Like, if there's nobody outside, he wants to play video games, he wants to go to the park, whatever. She's like, no, we not doing none of that, or you can't do none of that right now. What you're gonna do is you got this drawing set that I bought. You're gonna draw and you're gonna color and you go do that, right? But particularly drawing, she made him do that. He had no idea that later on in life, you know, that he would become a barber, and the type of precision that you have to have when you're drawing, and the amount of focus that you have to put into that is the same amount of precision and focus that you got to have when you lining somebody up, you know? So I say that to say, your kid can hate coding and hate tech all he wants. You gonna learn this, because by the time you turn 18 or whatever, when you get older and you get out there into the world and you're looking for work, you already got the skills you need. You understand what I'm saying? It's not a matter of you got to go learn it, because I've been drilling this into you since you were 7 years old. You already got the skills that you need to go out and get whatever gig that you want to get. Even if you don't want to do it, that's cool. You might not like the job. That'll be your stepping stone until you get something else then. But at least now you have the skills to be able to compete. You understand what I'm saying?
I bet you an artificial intelligence program that simulates how much money would be owed and for exactly how much for reparations would be something interesting to present to the government.
Yeah, that would be. And that's only going to be created by us if it's going to be created.
There you go. Real quick, I see my man, Black Online Group Economics in here speaking of tech. Like, that dude is a tech genius. So I just wanted to say what's up to him real quick.
Oh, for sure. What's his name?
Black Online Global Economics, BOGE. My dad always pushed trade. He just wrote that comment. That's my man down there. I've known that dude for a very long time. Good brother. Sure.
Yeah. And even now this is turning into a tech show, but that's cool. Right? It's turning into a tech episode now. But as it should, though, because that's the direction everything is trending in. And we don't want, you know what I want to speak to? I want to speak to the fact that people say, I think there was somebody in the comments, right? They said the people coming in on H-1B1 visas and immigrants and whatnot, right? Indians and Chinese or whatever, they're importing the workers. They're taking all those jobs, H-1B1 visas, right? That's not true, right? And it's not true to this point that I'm going to explain. When people say that in terms of the immediate jobs that are available, let's say right now at this moment, it's partially true to a degree. It is partially true to a degree, right? Because they're bringing these folks, but the reason they're bringing these folks in is not for the sole purpose of displacing the American worker and paying them less money. It's primarily due to the fact that, as surprisingly enough, many people don't know, here in the United States, we don't have the qualified personnel to work these tech jobs in artificial intelligence and automation. We don't have, but people don't understand, like in the US, like we're behind. The United States is behind in all this. Like, it's not even about like black folks and it's not about all white folks, everything. We are behind. They're bringing these people in to work these jobs because there aren't enough of us here in the US that can do it.
There's reasons why we're inherently behind as well. I had an excellent professor for one of my anatomy and physiology classes, and he explained to me how the education system is in India. They don't have summer vacations, and they always take cumulative tests, like how we take what do they call those, proficiency tests? Their proficiency tests, they take those every year. You know what I mean? And then also the languages, the Eastern languages, Cyrillic languages are entirely more difficult than Latin-based languages like what we speak here in the United States. Learning Chinese, Japanese, any of those kind of languages, that automatically sets you up for symbol recognition and to be a lot more proficient when it comes to coding. And then in addition to growing up in another country, most of those countries teach English. So those people grow up learning two languages, one very difficult, which would be the Asian languages, and then they also learn ours. So that puts them at an automatic advantage to be able to have a capacity to do more than we can intellectually just on a language and symbol recognition basis. That's an inherent bias that is actually true and is based in fact because of the way that their learning system works. That's why I'm suggesting, to counter that, one of the things that people need to do is start hammering, as soon as your child is able to talk and walk, Make sure that it's something educational that you're doing with them, whether it's they're watching Sesame Street. I don't know if that even comes on, and I don't know. I've actually heard they're doing some weird stuff with Ernie and Bert on Sesame Street now, so you might want to keep them away from that. My bad, that was a bad suggestion. It's just my brain misfiring. But you want to get them in books, have them reading about math, have them reading about science, history, everything. Whatever it is that can help them with the neural synapses, with the neural firing, flashcards for math, whatever, because that will spark that need for information. And once they become addicted to information and they continue that on, it'll become automatic. So then even as they get older, you as a parent won't have to be on them all the time, because that'll just be what they're interested in. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And furthermore, I want to add on this as well, because I see some folks are, going back and forth concerning like, the H-1B visas, and them bringing immigrants in to work these jobs. It really goes to show, right? And I say this respectfully, right? I say this respectfully. Some of the stuff that I'm seeing, it shows how ignorant we are on this topic, right? Because we are at the beginning stages of the fourth industrial revolution. It's just now really starting. We're at the dawn of it. Pretty soon, every company, and this is a known understanding and the saying, every company will be a tech company, right? Especially by 2030. By 2030, there's not going to be a such thing as this is a tech company and this is not a tech company. No, by 2030, every company is going to be a tech company by default, because everything is being digitized. Everything is moving the way of artificial intelligence and automation. We don't understand, right, at all how much innovation is truly going on right now, and the amount of personnel that's actually needed in order to handle this stuff. We don't really get that.
It's very easy to understand. All you have to do is just go watch Fifth Element, go watch Star Wars, go watch any of those movies, any futuristic movie. What you see in those movies, in the futuristic movies, that's how it's going to be in the next 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how it's going to be. And I also see as well, right? Because I've seen people discuss, and I see there's some discussion in the comment section concerning, I guess, leaving the country. And, there's people that have their arguments about that. Some people say, we got to leave the country and we got to do X, Y, and Z. Some people say, oh, there's no reason to leave the country because of X, Y, and Z. Let me explain something to you concerning that, right? If that's what you're going to do, or if that's something that you care to explore or even think about. You can't even begin to think about leaving overseas, right, if you don't have any skills that you're taking with you. You don't, because particularly when it comes to, let's just say, going back to the continent, right, going back to Africa, all right, you have countries like Nigeria and Ghana, and even in South Africa, really all over the continent, where infrastructure is finally being built up in the country, right? And a lot of that infrastructure is being built off of fourth industrial revolution technologies. Like they're building, for the future and for what's to come based off the technology that's present now, right? So when you're going to these countries, if that's what you choose and that's what you want to do, you go to these places with the mindset, and you go to them with the mindset that I'm coming here to build and participate in the building up of this country and the infrastructure of this country. I'm coming here to help elevate them. But you can't do any of that if you don't have the tech skills to do so, right? So you're not going to just show up over there and like, I'm gonna fill out an application for the Ghanaian version of McDonald's. No, you got to have your skills on par already, and already obviously have a job lined up before you get there. It takes about, and I've heard other people have this discussion before concerning that, it's going to take about at least 3 visits top. The first time you go overseas, and it doesn't have to be Africa, it could be the Caribbean, it could be somewhere in Latin America, it doesn't matter. Because this fourth industrial revolution wave is hitting the entire world. It's not a United States thing. It's not a Western powers thing, Europe thing. It's a world thing. Okay. So it doesn't really matter where you go. It doesn't matter if you go to Mexico, right? It really doesn't matter. But if you don't have your tech skills up to par to be able to transfer those skills over and say, okay, this is where I'm going to be working and doing this, then you can forget about it. And a lot of us don't really have that mindset. You're going to have to take a visit, let's just say to Mexico City, about 2 times, right? Before you can actually really figure out what you're doing when you get here, how you're going to go about it, who are, what are the companies, how do I get a job here? You're going to have to take a couple visits, before you do that. But my point is that it's also doable, because I see these discussions, right, where people say, there's nothing for you outside of this country. Where are you about to go? I understand that standpoint, right? And I understand the sentiment from the position of being a descendant of American slavery, and my people built this country, and I'm not going nowhere. I respect. I can't not respect that. You know what I mean? I feel that, right? If that's your stance, But also on that opposite side, right? I've spoken, because I used to be a Lyft driver, all right? That's what I used to do. Had a lot of conversations with a lot of people about a lot of different things. I was a Lyft driver for 3 years. I've spoken to numerous brothers, numerous Black men, right, that have traveled this world by means of different means, whether they had the money to do so, whether their job took them there. Because I talked with a brother that worked on ports, right? So he would start off with the ships in Long Beach and get sent out somewhere else, whatever. He said, when you leave the US and you go to other countries, it's not what you think it is when it comes to they hate us everywhere we go. It's unanimous with the brothers that I've spoken to. These are at least 10 brothers that I've spoken to within like the 3-year period that I was driving Lyft, where they've traveled around the country, and they've all told me the opposite. These are brothers that have been to the continent. These are brothers that have been to Asia, that have been to wherever, to Europe, South America, for whatever their reasons being. And they say, bro, it's not like that. When you leave here and you go to other countries, obviously there's going to be, some people looking at you with a side eye or whatever. But this notion that you're just hated everywhere, so forget about it, is simply not true. That's a false statement. I'm sorry. That's a false statement. You talk to anybody, and any Black man that actually travels, they'll tell you that statement is false. And if you have the means to, and you have the skills to, if you go somewhere else and say, I'm gonna, do my thing over here, it's doable. And you could live a fairly reasonable, good life and not deal with the stressors that come from living here. You feel what I'm saying? It's more than doable, and I've talked to too many brothers that have validated that I don't know, it was just through casual conversation, driving Lyft. And they tell me, brothers that have gone to the continent, they've told me themselves this notion that, Africans, they hate Black people, they hate Black Americans. That's a lie. It's not true. You can't associate the tap dancers that come here, that immigrate here. You can't associate the tap dancers that immigrate here with the same people that actually live on the continent. Those are two different people, right? So anyway, go ahead, Robb, speak on that for a minute.
Well, I was just going to say one thing, it's 2021 now. And if your healthcare records ain't looking right, you might not be going anywhere that you thought you were. You might not even be going to the next state. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm gonna just leave that there,
Yeah. So with all that, man, we've been talking for an hour and 8 minutes already. I see the live chat is going crazy.
That's what's up, man. We got to do these more. We got to do them more.
Yeah, man, we got to do them more. Live chat's going crazy. I think I made some people upset. That wasn't the goal when I first started this live stream. You know
what? I'll tell you what, if this live stream is the worst thing that happens to those people who are upset today, then they had a pretty good day.
Yeah.
They had a pretty good day. They should be fortunate. You know what I'm saying? Because Daniel Prude, he ain't here no more. He had a pretty bad day that day. So if this live stream, some thought exercise, is what upset you, thank whoever it is that you believe in for having such a good day and the privilege to be upset by a live stream.
Yeah, man, that's real. And also, and in closing, and I think we spoke on this the last time you were on the live stream. we have to get to a point, man. And I believe a lot of us in this live stream are, like I said, it's the negative stuff always pops out over the majority of the comments are like, all right, yeah, I feel you, whatever. And then there's a handful of no,
Right.
but I'll say this in closing, like, we got to be able to get to a point, and I believe a good deal of us are there, where we can agree to disagree. We can respectfully disagree. You can disagree without being emotional about it if you feel a way. You know what I mean? Say, I hear you, I feel otherwise, but I see what you're saying. I just don't really agree. You know what I mean? Without being nasty and going to the most negative extreme. You feel me? Like we really got to get to that point. Like I said, for the most part in the live stream today, almost everybody did a good job of it. But I want to stress that though. I want to stress it. You know what I mean? Because it's so. I'll say this. I keep saying in closing. I'll say this in closing, right? And I'm really going to close it out now. It's been an hour and 10 minutes. And I hope this is a proper comparison, right? People always look back and they say, man, what if MLK and Malcolm X connected, right? They spent so many years at odds, right? For the most part, in terms of ideology and whatever, they were actually going to connect. But by the time that happened, Malcolm got killed. A lot of people don't know that, surprisingly enough. Right, like Malcolm actually spoke at, if I remember Martin Luther King's church. There's a photo but Martin Luther King was in jail at the time. There's a photo of Malcolm and Coretta Scott King together at Martin Luther King's church. Like they were gonna link up. You know what I mean? Like they had plans to, but he got killed, and we all know the rest of that story. I say all that and bring all that up to say, like, let's learn from history. Let's learn from the past, right? Let's learn that just because you talking about artificial intelligence and automation and that we black folks going to be done by 2030. We're not going to be done by 2030 and we'll get our reparations and whatever the case is. Let's just learn how to respectfully disagree and come together on the basis of the things that we do have in common, so we can build forward and build, better. You feel? So that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. And I honestly think that people need to be in close environments where people don't necessarily agree on everything, so people can learn how to communicate. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to get along with everybody. You're not going to agree with everybody about everything. If you're in a relationship, you're not going to get along with your wife or your husband 100% of the time. You guys are going to have to come to compromises in order to make the marriage work. You know what I'm saying? So people need to consider that. People need to start being mature. Like Tony said, people need to let go some of the emotional attachments, and we need to also stop waiting for other people to come up with a plan for us. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's great that Dr. Claude Anderson did all of that work and created Powernomics and all of that stuff like that. And it's great that there's a lot of people out here who say a lot of these different things to lead you in the right direction. But if we're all sitting around waiting for somebody to lead us, nothing is stopping someone from leading us off of a cliff, which is what's been going on. There's nothing stopping you from making a personal agenda for yourself. If each one of us has our own destination, say, for instance, maybe I want to go somewhere. Maybe I want to get out of the country. I talk about I want to leave the country all the time. I don't necessarily say I want to go to a specific destination. I just feel I want to leave. I feel that, people need to get away from the US dollar. You know what I'm saying? What do I do? For those means, I don't really sit around and wait for anybody to do anything. I started investing in cryptocurrency and I buy, precious metals. I have gotten my passport and I look into other countries. You know what I'm saying? You have to establish a personal code for yourself. We always talk about getting on code and doing all this stuff as a collective. But at the end of the day, regardless of how much of what we want to maintain, we are now living in a capitalistic and individualistic society, and we have to adopt some of those traits in order to survive. And one of those traits that you need to adopt in order to survive is to create a personal code of success for yourself and for your family. And then if everyone does that, then it will automatically collectively be done.
Facts. And we'll end it on that. Ended it perfect. There it is. Tell the folks where they can find you.
All you got to do is just search Blacklight Revelations 1 and 2. Both of those are me. And I'm going to share this live stream, if it's cool with Tony, onto my community post so my people can check Tony out. And I always comment on Tony's videos, man. I really enjoy this brother's content. So you can find me in the comments probably every video if you watch this video. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, Rob, stay in the comment section. I'm dropping the link right now. Let me drop the link to your YouTube channel right now for you before we take off. And check this brother out, man. Like I said, Blacklight Revelations 2, Blacklight Revelations 2. And lastly, man, let me put this up and then I'm gonna shut it down. Okay. And this is lastly for real. If you want to know or get a better understanding of Robb and just how he does his thing, make sure you watch this video that you see right here in front of you. Okay. Watch this video. Anti-Black diversionary social justice. The right and left are on code, but off target. Don't buy it. All right. That's on Blacklight Revelations 2. Make sure you watch that video. We'll holler at you later. Peace.
Peace.